The quiet whispers of goodbye. Imagine this. You're sitting by the window, a soft breeze stirring the curtains. Across the room, the person you love most in the world, maybe your mother, your father, your lifelong partner, is quietly sipping tea. The scene is peaceful, familiar, almost normal. But today, something feels different. Maybe it's the way their hands, once so steady, tremble just slightly, or how their once robust laughter now seems thin, fleeting, like a candle fighting the wind. Or maybe it's the way their clothes hang loose on their frame, their belt cinched tighter than you remember. At first, you tell yourself, it's just aging. Everyone slows down eventually. But deep inside, a small, persistent ache begins to grow. As a physician who has walked with hundreds of families through the most sacred and often the most painful moments of life's final chapter, I have learned a truth that few want to face. Death rarely comes like a thunderclap. It arrives quietly, almost shyly, dropping subtle hints that most of us miss. If we are willing to listen, really listen, the body speaks. It speaks not through grand dramatic gestures, but through small, almost invisible changes. A forgotten word here, an untouched plate there, a breath that's just a little more labored than yesterday. These are not betrayals of life. They are love notes from the body, whispering, prepare, treasure what remains, say what must be said. Today, I want to walk with you through these whispers, through the 5 quiet signs that often appear months, sometimes a full year before the final farewell. But know this is not a journey of fear. It is a journey of fierce love, courageous acceptance, and choosing to make every remaining day a gift for them and for you. 1. The silent farewell, significant weight loss. The first whisper often comes not with words, but with numbers. Numbers falling silently on the scale. You may notice it first, in the smallest ways. A beloved dress that hangs too loose. A wedding ring that slips more easily over knuckles. A belt tightened 2 notches tighter, almost overnight. At first, it seems harmless, even welcome. They must be eating lighter, you think. Maybe it's healthier this way. But weight loss in the elderly, when it happens unintentionally, almost never tells a happy story. The body, you see, is a master of survival. It clings to nutrients, rebuilds muscle, repairs itself tirelessly, until one day, it quietly decides it's time to let go. This letting go often begins with a loss of appetite, a fading interest in food that once brought joy, a strange blandness as the sense of taste weakens, a slow disinterest in even favorite meals or treats. Physiologically, what's happening is profound. The digestive system, once vibrant and responsive, begins to slow. Muscles waste away, not because of laziness, but because the body no longer processes protein well. Essential organs, liver, kidneys, intestines, lose their efficiency. The very fuel that once powered life food now seems unnecessary, because somewhere deep inside, the body knows. It is shifting from fighting to surrendering. A story. I remember a patient of mine, Mrs. Evelyn. Evelyn was 78, a woman of indomitable spirit who once ran marathons into her 60s. But one spring, her daughter brought her in worried. Mom's lost 15 pounds in 3 months. She says she's just not hungry anymore. At first, Evelyn laughed it off. Maybe I'm finally getting my beach body, she joked, a mischievous glint in her eye. But as I examined her, I saw the deeper truth. Her muscles were wasting. Her cheeks had hollowed. The sparkle, once so defiant, had dimmed subtly, but unmistakably. We ran tests. No obvious disease. No raging infection. Just the quiet beginning of the body's final descent. Evelyn had entered what I call the twilight phase. Not a disease state, but a sacred, irreversible journey toward closure. What can you do when you notice weight loss? Listen, not force. Pushing large meals often backfires. Instead, offer small, easy-to-eat, nourishing foods that they enjoy. Prioritize comfort over calories. At this stage, joy matters more than numbers. Hydration is key. Even when appetite fades, small sips of water or electrolyte-rich fluids can sustain comfort. Talk with them. Sometimes, a gentle conversation about how they feel about their body, about food, about life, can reveal more than any medical test. Cherish shared meals. Even if it's just a few bites. Make mealtime a ritual of love, not obligation. If you notice unexplained weight loss in someone you love, don't panic. Don't push. Pause. Listen to the whisper. It may be telling you, I'm beginning my goodbye. Walk with me, not ahead of me. Part 2. When the body grows weary, understanding profound fatigue. It begins slowly. At first, you notice they sit a little longer at the breakfast table. They linger after walking up the stairs, breathing just a bit heavier. They turn down a walk in the park, claiming they're just not feeling up for it today. You tell yourself it's nothing. They're just tired. Everyone has slow days. But then the slow days start to outnumber the lively ones. Then one day, you see it. The way their hands tremble slightly as they reach for a cup. How getting up from a chair becomes a laborious two-stage process. The silent wince they think you don't see, just from tying their shoes. This is not mere tiredness. This is the body's quiet surrender to a deeper fatigue, the kind no amount of rest can erase. What is really happening? When an elderly body enters its final chapter, it instinctively begins to conserve energy. It's not laziness. It's not defeat. It's biology, ancient and sacred. Every heartbeat, every breath, every step costs energy. And as the body's reserves dwindle, it makes the only logical choice it can. Spend energy only where it matters most. Inside, unseen. The heart beats slower, weaker. The lungs exchange less oxygen. Muscles, robbed of nutrients, shrink and fade. The brain itself, ever the commander, sends new orders. Preserve, protect, rest. This is why what once seemed effortless, rising from bed, walking to the door, even holding a conversation, now feels as exhausting as climbing a mountain. A story. Mr. Henry Carter was one of the most spirited men I had ever met. At 81, he still mowed his own lawn, played chess every Saturday, and told stories that had entire rooms laughing. But then came the winter when Henry started sleeping through his favorite chess matches. His steps, once brisk and sure, became hesitant. He needed 3 naps a day instead of 1. His daughter, Marissa, was devastated. "Dad's just not himself," she said, fighting tears. "He's giving up." But he wasn't giving up. His body was telling him, it's time to rest. Time to use these last precious drops of energy to savor, not to strive. And so we shifted his care. No more motivating him to push harder. No more guilt over needing help. Instead, we leaned into his body's wisdom. Quiet days by the window. Short walks when he felt up to it. Long, easy conversations about memories, about love, about life. Henry didn't lose a battle. He lived the time he had left on his own terms, filled with dignity. How should you respond to profound fatigue? If you notice extreme tiredness that sleep doesn't fix, don't rush to fix it. Instead, honor their limits. Allow them to rest without guilt. Adjust expectations. Celebrate small victories, sitting up, sharing a story, smiling at you. Create peaceful spaces. Soft light, quiet music, comfortable chairs. All these small touches matter more than you know. Listen more. Talk less. Sometimes just sitting beside them holding their hand is the most powerful gift. Because when the body grows weary, what the heart needs most is not noise, not demands, but presence. If you see this exhaustion in someone you love, don't say, push harder. Say, I'm here whenever you need me. You will never regret the patience you offer now. You will never regret the minutes you spend simply being present. Because in the end, the only true medicine left is love, pure and unconditional. Part 3. When the mind begins to drift. Understanding cognitive changes with compassion. It often starts with a forgotten word, a familiar name just out of reach, a story told twice within an hour, the teller unaware, a birthday remembered, but celebrated a day too soon. You might smile at first. Everyone forgets things sometimes, you think. It's just normal aging. And yes, some forgetting is normal. But sometimes, quietly, gently, the mind begins to loosen its grip on the world it once commanded so effortlessly. It's not just forgetting a birthday. It's forgetting the years between. It's not just misplacing keys. It's forgetting what keys are for. This is not just a memory loss. This is the mind preparing for its own journey home. What is really happening? The brain, that miraculous organ of thought, feeling, and identity, requires a rich, constant river of oxygen and nutrients to thrive. But as the body's circulation weakens, as the heart grows slower, and the blood runs thinner, the brain, too, feels the change. Short-term memory falters. Attention fragments. Time becomes a soft, shifting thing. Hours feel like minutes. Minutes stretch into eternity. Some days are clearer than others. Sometimes, lucid moments return, like sunlight piercing through morning mist. But slowly, inevitably, those moments grow rarer. A story. Mrs. Genevieve Andrews was a retired school teacher, sharp, witty, the kind of woman who could quote poetry and solve crosswords faster than anyone in town. But one autumn, Genevieve's son noticed something strange. She called him by her brother's name. She set the table for a husband who had passed away a decade before. Still, there were moments, glorious, shining moments, when she would grasp his hand, look into his eyes, and say with utter clarity, I'm so glad you're here. Genevieve's mind was slipping not into darkness, but into a different kind of light. A softer place where love, more than facts, still held meaning. And so her family learned to follow her there. They stopped correcting. They stopped insisting on reality. They chose, instead, to meet her where she stood, even if that meant celebrating long-gone anniversaries or listening to stories of friends who had already passed. Because what mattered wasn't the accuracy, it was the connection. How should you respond to cognitive changes? When the mind begins to drift, you must become not the anchor pulling them back, but the gentle sail that moves with their current. Here's how. Meet them where they are. If they believe it's 1972, ask them what they loved about that time. Stay patient. Confusion isn't intentional. It's not stubbornness. It's a symptom. Speak simply, lovingly. Avoid overwhelming details. Focus on warmth, on tone, on presence. Celebrate lucid moments. When clarity comes, cherish it like a gift, but don't demand it. Forgive lapses. Let go of the need to correct or fix. Love doesn't require perfect memory. Above all, hold fast to the truth that even when memories fade, feelings remain. Even when words falter, love endures. If you see confusion stealing pieces of the person you love, don't mourn what's lost. Celebrate what remains. Because every touch, every smile, every spark of connection, even the smallest ones, carry a universe of meaning. You are not losing them completely. You are simply being invited to walk with them through the most delicate, precious twilight of their mind. with grace, with courage, with a heart wide open. Part 4. The Silent Battles. How frequent infections reveal the body's final struggle. It's the small things that start to break your heart. A little cough that lingers too long. A tiny cut on the hand that refuses to heal. Another fever. Another round of antibiotics. Another night spent watching over them, counting breaths. At first, you hope it's nothing. Maybe just a cold. Maybe they're just tired. But deep inside, you begin to feel it. A slow, undeniable ache, whispering that the body you love so dearly is fighting a battle it was never meant to win. What is really happening? Our immune systems are remarkable soldiers trained over decades to defend, repair, rebuild. But even the bravest army grows weary. In the twilight of life, the body makes an impossible decision to lower its defenses, to stop fighting every wound, every germ, every invader. It's not because it doesn't care. It's because, in some deep biological wisdom, the body understands. Its energy must now be spent not on fighting to stay, but on preparing to leave peacefully. Tiny infections that once disappeared in days now linger for weeks. Minor cuts, once healed overnight, turn stubborn, angry, raw. The spark of resilience that once defined them begins to flicker. Their skin bruises easier. Their breath catches more often. Recovery takes longer and longer, until sometimes it never fully comes at all. A story. Mr. Thomas Bell was a veteran, proud, strong, always the protector. When he caught pneumonia one autumn, his daughter Elise thought nothing of it. Dad's tough. He's weathered worse. And indeed, he fought it off, but it took longer than before. The next month, a simple urinary infection. Then a stubborn sore on his ankle that refused to heal. And then, the fatigue, the weakness, the long silences. It wasn't the infections themselves that broke Thomas down. It was what they reveal. That his body, once indomitable, was quietly laying down its arms. One evening, as she sat beside him, Elise asked, tears brimming, "Dad, are you scared?" He smiled, thin, tired, but still so full of grace. "No, honey," he said. "I'm just tired. It's time to rest now." How should you respond to this silent battle? When infections come more often, when wounds linger longer, when healing feels like a fight they no longer have strength for, understand that the goal must shift from curing to comforting, from battling to embracing. Here's how you can help. Prioritize comfort over cure. Sometimes rest, hydration, and tender care matter more than another aggressive treatment. Protect their dignity. Help with hygiene gently, respectfully. Their skin, their breath, their body is still sacred. Ease their discomfort. Moisturize dry skin. Clean small wounds tenderly. Keep their space clean, airy, soothing. Honor small victories. A smile after a fever. A shared meal after a rough night. Celebrate these moments as the miracles they are. Stay present. Hold their hand. Look into their eyes. Let them know wordlessly, you are not alone. If you see the infections coming more often, if you notice wounds refusing to heal, don't panic. Don't despair. Instead, lean closer. Whisper into their tired heart. You are still so loved, not for your strength, not for your victories, simply because you are you. Because long after the body surrenders, it is the memory of this love, gentle, patient, unwavering, that will endure. Love will be the last thing they feel, and the first thing they carry with them as they go. Part 5. When breath becomes a whisper, recognizing the final signs of transition. There is a hush that falls before the end. Not a fearful silence, not an emptiness, but a sacred stillness, the kind that feels thick in the air, like the world itself is holding its breath. You might notice it late one evening, sitting quietly by their side. The gentle rhythm of their chest rising and falling begins to change. A breath, then a long, aching pause. A sudden gasp, then stillness. Breaths that come faster, then slower, then faster again. You lean closer, straining to hear every whisper of air, terrified that at any moment the next breath will not come. Their hands grow cooler. The color drains slowly from their fingers, from their cheeks. The warmth of life, so long familiar and taken for granted, begins its soft retreat. What is really happening? The heart, worn and faithful, beats slower now. The lungs, once strong enough to cry at birth, to laugh, to sing, to shout across mountains, now breathe only because they must, and soon, even that will seem too heavy a burden. The body, in its infinite wisdom, does not resist. It simply lets go, like leaves releasing from an autumn tree, like the tide pulling back from the shore. This is not failure. This is the final act of life's greatest story. Surrender with grace. A story. Mrs. Rosa Martinez had been vibrant all her life, a seamstress, a mother, a dancer who could light up any room. At 92, as she entered her final days, her breathing shifted. Gone was the steady cadence. In its place, a symphony of pauses, sighs, and murmured goodbyes. The body spoke on her behalf. Her family gathered around her, no longer fearing the silence between breaths, but cherishing it. Each inhale became a miracle. Each exhale, a blessing. Each pause, a sacred reminder. This is life, precious until the very last moment. When her final breath came soft, almost imperceptible, the room didn't explode into grief. It dissolved into a quiet awe, because they had witnessed something most people never get to see. The beauty of a life fully lived and fully released. How should you respond in this final stage? When breathing changes, when hands grow cold, when the body seems to float between worlds, you are being invited to do the bravest thing love can ask. Stay. Simply stay. Hold their hand even when it feels limp. Whisper words of love, even if they cannot answer. Keep the room warm with your presence, your patience, your faith. Let them feel until the very end that they are not leaving alone. You are not there to stop the tide. You are there to walk them to the water's edge, to kiss their forehead, and to whisper, "It's okay. You can rest now. You are so loved." Final reflection. Love is stronger than goodbye. If you remember nothing else from this journey, remember this. Death is not the enemy. It is not a thief. It is not a defeat. It is simply the last act of life's beautiful, messy, miraculous story. The signs we've talked about, the weight loss, the fatigue, the confusion, the infections, the changes in breath, they are not signs of failure. They are invitations. Invitations to slow down, sit closer, speak softer, love harder. Invitations to recognize that what matters in the end is not how long someone lived, but how deeply they were loved. A story to end. I once cared for a woman named Margaret, whose final days were filled with family, friends, music, and laughter. When asked if she was afraid, she said, "No, dear. I have spent my whole life gathering love. Now I get to carry it with me wherever I'm going." What a gift. What a legacy. And so, my dear friend, if someone you love is showing these signs, don't see it as a tragedy. See it as a sacred honor. You have been chosen to be there for the final chapter, to turn the last pages of their story. With tenderness, gratitude, and unbreakable love, hold their hand, listen to their heart. And when the time comes, when the final breath is taken, know that your love walked with them every step of the way. And that, in some mysterious, beautiful way, it always will. Thank you for listening. If this journey has touched you, even a little, hold someone you love tonight. Tell them you're grateful they are here. And when the day comes that you must say goodbye, let it be a goodbye filled with love so fierce that even death itself must bow to it. You are not alone. You never were. And love. Love is stronger than goodbye.